Here it is, the comparison nobody asked for. Well, in fact, actually, one of you did. The Kawasaki ZZR1400 versus the ZH2. Let's jump right in. All right, so these two titans of the motorcycling world are totally different beasts from one another, catering for totally different audiences. But me, I absolutely love both of them. So that's why we're doing this little comparison today. And we're gonna have a few different categories for them both to fight over. The sound and look, their performance, and of course, their rideability. On my left here, we've got the legendary Kawasaki ZH2. This is the 2021 model, sporting a 998cc inline 4 supercharged, producing around about 200 horsepower at the crank. An absolute monster of a naked and arguably one of the best you can currently buy. And on my right, a motorcycle that needs no introduction, the myth, the legend that is the Kawasaki ZZR1400. This is the 2016 model, sporting a 1441cc naturally aspirated inline 4, producing roughly 210 horsepower at the crank. It's a motorcycle of absolute epic proportions, and you guys know I absolutely love it.
Our three categories will each score out of 10. The motorcycle with the highest score at the end will be our winner. In the performance category, we'll compare the paper specs of both machines and a few 0 to 60 runs at the end of the video. The result may surprise you, so stick around so you don't miss it. In terms of rideability, we'll compare how they ride on the street, how comfortable they are over longer journeys, and their feature sets. Let's first take a look at the spec sheets, and then we'll score them on our first category, their looks and sound. These two motorcycles are actually quite comparable in the tail of the tape. Both have a huge amount of horsepower, both have enough torque to jumpstart planets, and they're both similar in weight. However, this is where the similarities end. The ZX-14 of course beats out the ZH2 in outright top speed, and it will also outperform aerodynamically thanks to the fairing. But that's not the whole story. Comparing these two motorcycles on spec sheet is one thing, experiencing them firsthand is something else entirely. Let's first take a look at the way they sound. Let's next compare their looks. I think most people will agree when I say that the ZZR1400 means business. The lines are sharp, the colour is bold, and the fairing just screams race me, I dare ya. And believe me, there aren't that many out there that could outrun this beast. It all just adds to the experience for me. People only need to glance at it to know that it's a serious piece of kit. You could make the argument that it's starting to look a little dated, especially when you consider that it hasn't changed much in terms of design since it was first released in the mid-2000s. I personally think it still looks really modern, and it's really cool to see design elements from the original era this motorcycle came from. The design looks to have stood the test of time, truly bike porn at its finest. The ZH2 on the other hand has received criticism from reviewers for the way it looks. I totally disagree. Yes, there are ugly parts of the bike. Some of you have mentioned about the exhaust, but overall I still don't think it deserves the ugly duckling treatment whatsoever. It's again another motorcycle that means business in all the ways that count. After all, the centerpiece of this motorcycle is that sweet supercharged motor. Why wouldn't you want to show it off? I mean, it's not every day you see a motorcycle with a supercharger. Although this score is totally subjective, I think most will agree that the ZZR1400 has the edge in terms of look and sound. The Krapovic exhaust on the ZZR1400 comes stock with the Performance Sport Edition. Some may argue that it is an unfair comparison. However, when I did my first ever test ride on the ZH2, it also had an Krapovic exhaust, and from memory, there unfortunately wasn't much difference between it and the base exhaust, so I don't think it would have turned the tide. However, despite loving the sound of that supercharger flutter, I know of aftermarket exhaust cans for the ZH2 that would totally make the sound comparison between them a much tighter race. For this category, I'm going to give the ZZR1400 a score of 8 and the ZH2 a solid 7 out of 10. On to our next category, rideability. Let's kick this one off with the wicked Kawasaki ZZR1400.
Alright guys and gals, so first up for the rideability test is the ZZR1400. Yeah, this is a motorcycle that's featured from the very start of this channel, and she is a modern classic. I don't think anyone can deny that. All the heritage that these motorcycles have, these speed machines. Yeah, absolutely insane motorcycle, and just one of those experiences that is just so unique, because there aren't that many bikes out there that produce the levels of torque that these kinds of bikes do. At least not from the factory anyway, not from stock. Whereas this from stock, you know, 150, 160 Newton meters of torque is just ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. Riding the ZZR is a lot of fun, and it's one of those bikes that is very addictive. So you get on it, you ride around for a bit, you get off it, and then you can't wait before you actually jump on it again. It has just one of those things that it gets under your skin, you know? It really gets under your skin, you just want to keep on riding her. And yeah, she's pretty comfortable. The seat is nice and mushy, so it's a nice experience for your bum. The seating position is quite aggressive. It's not kind of like ZX-14r levels of aggressive, but there is that forward lean. You are kind of feeling a little bit like Superman when you're riding this motorcycle. So it's not going to be the most comfortable bike in the world. Now, a lot of people regard this bike as a sport tourer. I don't, for this reason, because of the riding position. The riding position is too aggressive to be a sport tourer, in my humble opinion. And that's the thing, even though you can ride this motorcycle for a long time, you can ride it a long time, maybe up to an hour and a half, maybe, depending on your dexterity, I suppose. But you could ride it for up to an hour straight without needing a rest, which, yeah, is pretty good. I think for a forward-leaning motorcycle is pretty good. There are some adjustments that some people do like to make to these bikes. Raising the handlebars up a little bit, lowering the foot pegs a little bit as well is a common mod that I've seen on these bikes. I haven't done either. I have tried raising the handlebars, I have tried that, and I actually do prefer the bike leaning forward more. So yeah, it's one of those things that you'll have to kind of play it by ear in terms of the ergonomics and how you feel. But this is a motorcycle that a lot of people can ride comfortably. I think that's the thing to take away from this. Even if you have, you know, you struggle with your knees. I mean, me personally, I struggle with my hips. I get cramps in my hips quite a lot, and my wrists take a bit of a battering as well whenever I'm riding in this forward leaning position. But I have to say that I can ride on this bike pretty comfortably for a fairly long while. It's not one of those motorcycles that I'd necessarily do an iron butt challenge on, but yeah, it's comfortable enough for a motorcycle like this. It's pretty damn good, if you ask me, in terms of ergonomics. Now let's talk about features. So this motorcycle doesn't really have a lot of features, doesn't have a lot of tech stuff. It's a very raw experience. It is what you get, you know, it does what it says on the tin kind of thing. But it does have a little bit. So it does have two power modes. It's got the full and low power mode, and it does have traction control, 3 levels of traction control, and the traction control is also the wheelie control, which is pretty standard on Kawasaki motorcycles. And I mean, yeah, the power modes are nice, but I mean, I have it in the full power mode all the time and in the lowest traction control mode, and if anything, I like to turn off the traction control mode if I'm feeling a little bit adventurous. But yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it in terms of tech features. Analog dials, you know, it's pretty bare bones, really. And this is the performance sport model, so it's kind of like got all the bells and whistles with the upgraded Brembo brake system, the crappy bitch exhaust, the Öhlins rear shock, and the windshield as well is different from the standard model. But yeah, in terms of features, pretty raw. pretty wall, which a lot of people like. It hasn't got an electronic throttle either, so you pull the throttle back and you are opening those throttle bodies, okay? So you are getting that feedback directly from the engine, which is absolutely fantastic. And again, I know that a lot of people like that aspect of a lot of motorcycles. They don't like a lot of this tech stuff getting in between them and the riding experience, and I totally get that. So yeah, all in all, absolutely fantastic in terms of riding. You're going to be able to lean it into corners a lot as well. That's the thing that I think a lot of riders are surprised by with the ZZR. It's very nimble. It's actually more nimble than a lot of people think it could be, because it weighs 260 kilos, 264 kilos to be precise, I think, wet, which is a lot. That's a lot of weight, but it doesn't feel like it. As soon as you start riding, it feels like any other motorcycle. It does feel nimble. The only time when you may feel the weight is at slow speeds, doing slow maneuvers. That's the time when you're going to feel it, especially because you've got a longer wheelbase as well, which is really good for keeping that front end down when you're trying to blast it as quickly as you can. But it doesn't help that much when it comes to maneuverability in slow speed stuff. So yeah, but still, it's wonderful, absolutely wonderful for what this motorcycle was made for, competing against the Hayabusa. Man, it is absolutely sick. Blimey. Oh, you need an adventure bike for this. Oh, fair play. ZZR took that rather well, I think. So in terms of throttle feel, it's certainly not all or nothing. You can feather it, you can be gentle with it. Yeah, throttle feels very, very good. Very, very nice, very responsive. I mean, you do get torque on tap with this bike. That's the thing. In every gear you get torque on tap. And the thing is, it keeps on delivering power. Again, so you feel the torque like here. You feel that torque straight away, immediately. But then, even if you pin the throttle back, you get even more torque further up the range. It's absolutely fantastic. Yeah, it's absolutely wicked. I mean, well, that peak horsepower, of course, is going to be at the top end, so it makes sense. But it just feels monstrously powerful. And I've said this a number of times, I'm never ever going to be able to extract the full amount of power that this motorcycle has to offer. But that, for me, is why I love it. Woo! See that? Yeah, very easy to get carried away with this thing. Just that feeling is one in a million. It's so addictive, so addictive. But yeah, throttle feel is absolutely great, and the power delivery is linear as well. It's not all or nothing, like I mentioned earlier. It's very linear, so you do get torque from the very beginning, but it's not unmanageable, uncontrollable torque. You know, like you can roll on the throttle pretty comfortably, which is nice. It's what you want for a motorcycle. That's exactly what you want. You want that predictability. You want to know exactly what the bike is going to do whenever you do something like pull the throttle back hard. You want to kind of be able to feel it out, and you can do with this motorcycle. You can do. Clutch feel. Clutch feels a tad heavy. For my liking, it does feel a tad heavy. I would have liked it to have been a little bit lighter, but then again, though, when you're looking at performance machines, the heavier clutches give you a bit more feel, I think. I don't know. Let me know in the comments how you feel about heavier clutches, but it's not like ridiculously heavy, but you will start to feel it if you're in traffic for a long period of time. You're keeping the bike in gear, or you're constantly feathering the feathering the clutch, you know, moving forward, start, stop, that kind of thing. Yeah, you're going to feel it pretty quick. So that's a criticism I've had of the past of the ZZR1400, is I would have liked a little bit more torque down low, which kind of sounds crazy because, I mean, this thing is a torque monster, but a lot of it is in the mid-range and the top end. I would have liked, just for street riding purposes, I would have liked a little bit more down low. Now, I know that some of you say about getting the ECU flashed and that fixes it. Yeah, fair enough, but when you're trying to compare apples to apples, you do want it to be from stock, really. And that's kind of where I'm coming at from here. From this angle, I'm looking at it from stock wise. And yeah, that's the thing. I think for me, that's what the ZH2 does better than the ZZR is just having that low end punch. That low end punch is just absolutely wicked, especially for street riding. And look, this is what most of us are going to be doing every day, is street riding. So yeah, still absolutely wonderful, like I said, but would have been nice, a little bit more torque, just a tad more torque down low, I think would have made all the difference for street riding. Alright, so in a moment we're going to cut ahead to the ZH2, but I mean, this is an absolutely fantastic motorcycle. You cannot go wrong with the ZZR1400. It's absolutely wicked. The only way you're going to find out about this bike is if you ride it. It's all well and good for me to say about it, to talk about it, but honestly, you feel it for yourself, you experience it for yourself, and you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. But it's just a marvel. It's so good, despite my very, very minor criticisms. Oh, it's just good. It's just really, really good. But anyway, that'll do for the rideability and features section of this video for the ZZR. So yeah, let's go ahead and cut to the ZH2. So guys and gals, the Kawasaki ZH2. What a monster of a motorcycle this is. It's a shame that Ducati have got the name monster, because this is, that word perfectly describes this motorcycle right here. It's just, oh man, it's crazy. This is a crazy motorcycle. You've got to be crazy to own one of these, but maybe that's an exaggeration. But yeah, it is mad. It is mad. It really is. I mean, I was watching that movie Dread the other day from 2012 with Carl Urban. It's really good. If you haven't seen that movie, then definitely go check it out. But yeah, I rewatched it recently, and the bikes that they ride in it, this is kind of like how it feels to ride. You know, when you look at one of those bikes and you imagine how it feels to ride, it feels like that, which is so sick. A post-apocalyptic machine. It does feel like a Mad Max motorcycle, this, because of the supercharger. You can hear it sucking in the air when you're pulling the throttle back. Yeah, it's really wicked. Really wicked. Alright, well, let's talk a little bit about performance here. Now, on the spec sheet, clearly the ZZR has the edge here. You cannot deny that. More power, more horsepower, more torque. You just cannot beat that. In terms of on-spec performance, the ZZR definitely has it. You can't argue with that. But the way this bike feels to ride is just, it feels like an animal, like a caged animal. And every single time whenever you're pulling that throttle back a little bit more than you should be, you're kind of unleashing the beast ever so slightly, and you get a kind of like an idea of what this motorcycle is capable of. I mean, you've got to be a really, really top-class rider to be able to control this motorcycle at full power. Yeah, it's absolutely insane. And just the fact that you can pull wheelies without any issue whatsoever. I kind of feel like it needed a longer wheelbase, this motorcycle. I don't know why, but that's probably why it makes it so, like, such an adrenaline rush. That short wheelbase just wants to chew you up and spit you out, man. It's so good. But you need to ride one of these to understand what I'm experiencing right now. It's one of those things I try to put into words as best as I can, but it's really difficult because the numbers on the spec sheet don't correlate to the experience that this motorcycle gives you. That's what's so, just, I don't know, just so so misunderstood, so confusing. That's what makes this motorcycle really special. I mean, if you are in the market for a naked, this is the naked to buy. I mean, okay, let me rephrase this a little bit. If you want the ultimate naked experience, then this is arguably the top. Either between this or the MT10 or the Super Duke, the 1290 Super Duke, one of those. Those are this is in the top three. And a lot of people will say that this is the top dog, for sure.
And I think I agree, but I'm gonna still, I really want to have a go on MT10, I really want to have a go on a Super Duke, so I'm gonna reserve my judgment until then. But right now, in terms of experience, there is no better motorcycle for me in terms of experience. The experience that this motorcycle gives you is just out of this world, man. Out of this world. It is controllable, but yeah, when you give it some, when you give it the beans just a little bit, that's when this bike just wants to eat you up. Honestly, it wants to buck you off. It's like an angry stag. That's how it feels when you're giving it just a little bit, To be fair, 4th, 5th, 6th gear isn't where it's at with this motorcycle. I mean, that's for like touring stuff, and we'll get onto touring in just a moment. But 1st, 2nd, 3rd gear, that's where this motorcycle is happy. This is where it's at its most aggressive, at its most ferocious. Yeah, and it loves it, absolutely loves it. I love it. I absolutely love the feeling that you get in 1st, 2nd, 3rd gear on this motorcycle. And then there's the gears you're going to be in a lot of the time. When you're looking for that fun factor, when you're looking for that adrenaline rush, those are the gears that you're going to be in a lot. But yeah, let's talk a little bit about rideability here. So in terms of performance, out of this world, absolutely amazing experience. But let's talk about rideability here. Compared to the ZZR1400, arguably this motorcycle makes a better tourer, just because it is actually in a more neutral position. You're sitting more upright, your arms don't have any weight bearing on them whatsoever. All the weight is on your butt, and that's really where you want it. If you want a comfortable experience, that is where you want the weight to be the vast majority of the time. Now, there is a little bit of a caveat with this. The seat isn't actually as comfy as a ZZR. It's not quite as spongy, it's not quite as forgiving. It's a harder seat than the ZZR for sure. So even though this motorcycle in terms of ergonomics is more suited for longer journeys, actually I find my arse aching quite a lot after, say, about an hour to an hour and a half of riding. My arse does ache, but standing up on this bike is actually surprisingly easy. You can stand up on it to relieve some pressure for just a little while. I mean, well, I could demonstrate right now. There you go. You can just stand up quite easily, and yeah, you're still in complete control of the motorcycle. So yeah. But it's just one of those things, isn't it, that you'd expect this motorcycle to be really comfortable, and it is, but the seat does let it down quite a lot, I think. And I don't know, it's just a thing that Kawasaki seems to be doing at the moment, is making really hard seats for their bikes. I don't know why. There's no need. I mean, they've made really good seats in the past, so yeah, bit confusing, that one. But ergonomically, this bike is absolutely perfect, absolutely perfect. And at the moment as well, I've got a bit of a neck injury from training in martial arts, and I've had it for a few weeks now, but I don't feel any pressure on my neck from riding the ZH2, which again is another plus. You know, it's just such a versatile motorcycle. You know, you can rag it if you like, get that massive power, that awesome adrenaline rush, or you can ride it in the city. It's a really good city rider just because of how nimble it is. And even though it weighs 240 kilograms wet, it doesn't feel like that at all. It actually feels very, very nimble. And you know how I said in the ZZR bit that bike feels nimble, especially in the corners and what have you? Well, this bike feels even more nimble than that, and it's crazy. It's only 20 kilograms less in terms of weight, but it makes a massive difference, clearly. Yeah, it's a really good all-rounder, seriously good all-rounder. I mean, if you want about as much power as you can get out of a 1000 but in a comfy package, well, this is it. This is the bike to buy. So rideability aside, let's talk about features, because this thing has got all the features. I mean, where do I start? The TFT display, the electronic throttle, the clutch control, the launch control, the cruise control, all the controls, the rider modes, three different power modes as opposed to 2 power modes on the ZZR. You can turn off traction control entirely and have it off permanently with the custom rider mode, which is absolutely wicked. I wish the ZZR had that feature, because honestly I prefer riding without traction control on most of the time. And the ZZR, every single time you turn it off and back on again, it turns on traction control. I understand why, but it really doesn't need traction control, to be honest with you. It doesn't need it. It doesn't need it on, at least most of the time. Maybe if it's wet or what have you, then yeah, fine. But, and to be fair as well, that the rider modes that you do get, the sport, road and rain modes, they're really useful. Really useful. They actually do make a massive difference to the riding experience. The rain mode, of course, is really forgiving and you feel a lot more in control of the bike. Yeah, really, really good. The road mode as well is kind of in between. I suppose it's like your city rider mode, where you want that little bit of power to get off the line quickly, but not too much power. And then, yeah, you got the full-on sport mode for when you want to just yeet yourself. Is that a word that kids still use nowadays? Yeet? I don't know. But yeah, really, really usable. Really usable. Now, I did mention about the clutch on the ZZR. The clutch on the ZH2 is an absolute dream. Absolute dream. It is so lightweight. It's responsive as well, really responsive. It doesn't quite have the same feel as the ZZR in terms of confidence, but it feels really good nonetheless. Really, really freaking good. Yeah, I don't know, there's not a lot of bad things to say about this motorcycle, guys. It is just a really good bike. Well, here is a negative for you, in fact. Fuel economy. I mentioned this before, but if you're anything like me and you absolutely are addicted to the way this motorcycle feels on the gas, then yeah, you're gonna blast through fuel like no tomorrow. Honestly, you really are gonna get through that fuel quick. I mean, at the start of filming today, I had a full tank, and now I'm down to nearly half already. Yeah, it kind of sucks, but I accept that trade-off for the experience that this motorcycle gives me. I totally accept that trade-off wholeheartedly. I love it, and it's never once been a concern for me. And the thing is, I'm absolutely certain that you can get some pretty good gas mileage out of this thing if you're just sensible with it. But that's the thing, it doesn't want you to be sensible. It wants you to be childish. It's a childish motorcycle. It's a boy's toy through and through, and that's why I love it. I think that's everything for this segment of the video, guys and gals. I think it's about time that we move on to the 0 to 60s. Let's jump right into the ZZR's 0 to 60 runs. Here we go. Alright guys, so we're about to go ahead and try out the 0 to 60 runs on the ZZR. Now, I'm not a drag racer, I'm not a racer of any kind, so this is totally just going to be from an average Joe's perspective. Alright, so in theory I won't need to even upshift on either of these two bikes, I don't think, but I mean, we'll see how these go. I'm going to do 3 runs in total. I'm going to average the times on all 3. Alright, here we go. 3, 2, 1, go. That was a bit of a rubbish start. I don't think that was the best start. Wasn't good on the clutch, wasn't good on the gas either. So we'll try another one. 3, 2, 1, go. I think that was smoother. But again, I think I could have gone harder on the gas. But of course I could do better. I mean, that wasn't 2.6 seconds, was it? Alright, here we go. Let's make this quick. 3, 2, 1, go. Oh, I don't know, man. I don't know. That was pretty quick. I think that might be the quickest one yet. But I mean, that's not. I still think I could have done more. I mean, these drag racers are like, you know, they're revving the hell out of their bikes when they're doing their
they're doing their runs, but I think I can do better. Here we go. All right. 3, 2, 1, go. There. Woo. Well, that was it, guys. That is the 3 0 to 60 runs. I mean, I don't know. I don't think they're that great. They're probably between 3 and 4 seconds, I imagine. But I did try my absolute best there to get the revs high. And I feel comfortable doing the 0 to 60s on this motorcycle. I feel comfortable doing them. I don't know if the same can be said about the ZH2 because that front end's going to keep on trying to come up. But yeah, let's go ahead and let's do the 0 to 60s on the ZH2. Alright guys, here we are with the Kawasaki ZH2. We're about to do our 0 to 60 runs, and just the same as before, I'm going to do a test run, a warm-up run if you like. Then I'm going to do the 3 best runs I possibly can, and we're going to take an average of those 3 to determine the 0 to 60 time. So yeah, let's get ourselves into position here for the warm-up run. In fact, just before we do, I'm going to swap this around a little bit. Now, before, the ZZR was in the full power mode with the #1 traction control, so it's like the lowest traction control mode. So that's actually what I'm going to do right now with this as well, make it as apples to apples as possible. All right, here we go. First run, warm up, 0 to 60, ZH2, here we go. 3, 2, 1. Oh god. I was a bit jerky on the throttle there. I might have to upshift, which I didn't have to with the ZZR. I didn't have to, so we'll see what that does to the time. But because I'm trying to keep the front end down. Yeah, interesting. Okay, well anyway, that was the warm-up run. Let's try the first proper run. Here we go. I might actually need to upshift for this one. 3, 2, 1, go. There. Woo! I don't know, guys. That feels pretty damn quick. That's the thing with the ZH2, is that it might not be as fast as a lot of motorcycles, but the way it feels, it's just out of this world, man. It's such a brutal experience that you get with the ZH2. It just really throws you into the back of your seat. You're holding on for dear life with this bike. Oh, it's so wicked. That's why I love it. But again, I mean, trying to keep that front end down is going to be the tough bit here. But oh, I don't know. It felt quick. I think I could definitely get a better start than that, because I kind of like on the gas, off the gas. But I definitely think I can do better. All right, let's try a 0 to 60 run here. Here we go. All right, run number 2. 3, 2, 1, go. Go. That's a go. There, I was meant to say. No, I think that was pretty smooth. I think that was a pretty smooth run, to be honest with you. I don't know if I can get any better than that, but we've got one last try. So yeah, let's see how we do on the last one, but I think that's going to be the best one. It's a shame that I got to upshift, but the quick shifter on this thing makes that upshift so easy. Makes it so easy. Right, let's try here. All right, final run, ZH2, 0 to 60. 3, 2, 1, go. Oh no. Oh, that run was bad. Oh, I'm not happy with that run there. I said I'd give it 3 goes. But yeah, I don't know why I came off the gas so hard, man. I don't know why. That was annoying. But yeah, I mean, that's what makes this motorcycle hard to control right there, is being able to feather the throttle. Yeah, anyway, guys and gals, let's jump into the conclusion and some final thoughts.
There we have it. Let's take a look at the final scores. The Kawasaki ZZR1400 took the edge in the look and sound category, scoring an 8 out of 10, whilst the ZH2 scored a 7 out of 10. This is mainly due to the better soundtrack and classic styling of the ZX-14. However, the ZH2 certainly makes up a lot of ground in our ride quality category. Its comfort and modern feature set gives it the edge, despite the seat actually being nicer on the ZX-14. For this category, we have to give the ZH2 a score of 9 out of 10 for its versatility and sheer quality of creature comforts, many of which I use on a regular basis. Even though the ride quality of the ZZR1400 isn't quite on par with the ZH2, it still rides like a dream, especially if you like a slightly more aggressive seating position. It's the lack of features that really holds it back for me. When you consider that buying a ZZR1400 in 2020 wouldn't have come with anywhere near the plethora of features that a 2020 ZH2 would have, it's a real shame that a 3rd gen ZX-14 wasn't released, as I'm sure a refreshed model would have been a lot closer in this category if there was. For this reason, I'm giving the ZZR1400 a 7 out of 10. Now onto our 3rd and final category, performance. The ZZR1400 clearly has the edge in paper spec performance. However, our 0 to 60 runs should give us a better perspective on their real world performance. As mentioned earlier, please take these runtimes with a pinch of salt, as they were performed by an average rider. However, they should be pretty representative of the performance most riders can expect. After all, getting off the line quickly is perhaps one of the most important use cases for any motorcycle. So in our 0 to 60 runs, the ZX-14 scored an average of 4.25 seconds, the ZH2 scored an average of 4.05 seconds. My fastest run on the ZX-14 was 4.17 seconds and 3.47 seconds on the ZH2. So they're pretty much exactly the same in terms of real world performance within margin of error, which for me counts the most in our scoring for today's video. For this reason, I'm scoring them both a 9 out of 10 for this category. Just goes to show that spec performance doesn't always translate to everyday riding. Maybe a professional rider in some capacity could find a more significant difference here. However, I think even they would struggle to consistently run faster times on one over the other. I think this is a fair assessment, but definitely let us know in the comments if you disagree. The total scores for today just puts the ZH2 ahead of the ZX-14 by 1 point, with the only significant difference being that the ZH2 is simply a more modern platform. But at their core, they are both fantastic motorcycles, arguably some of the best in the world right now, with their bulletproof warp drive engines, incredible handling, and providing such an adrenaline rush, riders will find themselves with smiles all around on either of them. And much of the scoring today will come down to personal preference, so do the right thing. If you're in the market for a new motorcycle and looking at either of these, test ride both of them to find which best suits you. Or if you're like me and can't decide between them, get both. Even though they're both Kawasaki, they really do provide a different experience. It's a real treat that these two motorcycles are just as exciting to ride as one another, but different enough that you'll never get bored of either. For all of us riders out there, it's truly a wonderful time to be alive. Thanks for watching.